Bless you, bless you, bless you. Been like a church service here, right? Well, you know, I even wrote up here, the ultimate purpose of the astrologer. That's my opinion, of course, but I believe it's to lead your client to the cradle of Christ, or if you put it another way, to the cradle of divine realization. I'm not like, my idea of Christ is not a fundamental feeling, thought about it. I don't have that kind of attitude towards it. But, you know, the wise men were, that's what they were. They were astrologers in the Bible. And they led us where? To the cradle of the Christ. Okay, that's what I believe ultimately astrology is about. And that's its purpose. Now, not everybody's receptive to that. Those that are, fine. And those that come through me, they're going to get that, you know. Can't avoid it. Yes,
and they were Zoroastrians too.
Very good. Yeah, they were very much so. And the three wise men represented three different races, really. I believe. Okay, the black, the Indian. Really, I believe that. You know, that it sounds a little exclusive there, but that's what I believe. Because the three gifts they gave: frankincense, myrrh, and gold. I think gold represented the white race. The frankincense represented the Indian race, frankincense, which is an incense, and then myrrh, which is symbolic of death. I know this sounds racial, but I think it represented the black race. And who taught me that? My black teacher, you know, in prison, and I believe it. I think there's something to it.
What do they use myrrh for? I don't even.
It's an embalming, part of the embalming process.
Oh, okay.
It's also medicinal.
It's medicinal.
It is medicinal.
Yeah.
And frankincense is also medicinal. So I think that they brought these things because frankincense and myrrh were as valuable, if not more valuable, than gold because it helped people to survive.
Really?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I read something too the other day, which surprised me, and I know this is an herbalist, she knows more about stuff like this, but there's, I would have never known, but the crown of thorns, is it called hawthorn? What is it? Is it hawthorn?
I didn't
I'm not
know
sure.
That I didn't.
But there's an actual, there's a remedy they suggest using that essence of that thorn that's used in the crucifixion.
I didn't
And,
know what it was, what was used in the
Yeah, and I think it's supposed to be something that alleviates pain, but I'm not sure which, anyway, whatever. There's so much more to all this, the more you look into mysteries, yes, sir.
You know, I respect you tremendously, that's why I'm here. And for me to say that, if you know me, but I'm just an average guy, the three races really are Caucasian, Negroid, and Mongoloid, which would be Asian.
Interesting.
You know, so it's not Indian, so that, you know, so that you're saying Asian, it is because the Indians, like the American Indians are actually Asians.
Yeah.
You know, so that's the breakdown of that. But then it also talk about, there's like two more races, maybe Polynesian, whatever, but, you know, that's for the record, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And I say, you know why? Because Percy told you that. You know, if it was you, I'd just shut up. And I'd tell you afterwards.
No, it's okay, no. You know, we're, go
From
ahead, I'm sorry.
India do consider themselves Asian.
India
They
consider
consider
Asian.
themselves Asian, even though they're
Yeah.
a different kind of Asian
Yeah,
than what we normally think of.
It's like Pakistan and India, they're the same people.
The
They
same
just-
people, exactly, just a religion.
Religion,
Right.
yeah, difference, yeah. Anyway, a little digression there, but and the other thing I wanted to talk about a little bit today is intuition versus tuition. Your tuition is what you pay to come to this class, but the most valuable knowledge and the most important is gaining intuition. And most of us don't listen to our intuition too well. Women tend to do it better than men, and I think it's a survival thing. You need it to survive, women particularly, because you don't have the brawn and the protection that a man might have. You need to be able to use that intuition. So very often we don't listen to it. Sometimes our heart rules us, and we're not thinking clearly because we're not seeing clearly because we're a little bit enamored by somebody or something. Sometimes that's part of it. Sometimes we don't want to listen because it's not convenient. We think we're going to benefit on some level in some way by following this particular thing, when in fact our intuitions are saying different, right? So you need to listen to that inner voice, and it can save your life and it can protect you, okay? There's an interesting study that was just released, that was in the news just recently, and it's about detecting liars. And they found that the unconscious is better at detecting deceit and lies than the conscious mind. The conscious mind is very easily tricked and fooled. And that what they discovered was when they did just free association word testing of people about some person that they thought they could trust, when they did that from the unconscious level and the words just came out, they had all these deceptive words and things that showed deception that was revealing to them that they should be careful what they're doing. So I want you to follow into that in your work. You know, intuition is an important part of it. And in my book, I start out my book a little bit about that, about the most important knowledge that comes through listening within and being still, and knowing what the scriptures say. Be still and know that I am God. What's that mean? Think about it. I am. I am that I am. That was what God, he said, who spoke to Moses? He said, who am I speaking to? Basically, Moses said, you tell them that what? I am that I am sent you. And what's I am? Think about it. Who's inside you that's looking out? What is that part of you, that spark of you that's looking out here through these windows? And that's the eternal I am. And it's a judge and a jury as well. It's your conscience. It's all those things. People create for themselves a lot of problems in life because they think that they're getting away with something. They're doing something that they think is somehow not being observed, but the observer's within you. And the judge and the jury's there. And so it's going to undo you. And it's going to make sure you're punished, if you would. And you're going to think it's all just an accident that you ended up in that punishment, or that you ended up with that in your life. I don't understand why it always happens to me. What's this, you know? I've got a son that's a wayward son. You know, 36 years old, I guess, is he? You know, and I can't get to him. I mean, he's been living his life in deceit. And he makes $100 and some thousand a year, almost every year, dishonestly. And yet, he loses it all. He goes to Vegas and gambles it all away. Every time. And he'll be penniless again. And I try to explain to him, you know, you never earn the money, honestly. It's not something you deserve. And the part of you knows that, it's going to make sure you lose it. So he'll run back off to Vegas and gamble it all away again. Just did it here about 6 months ago, penniless again. And but he hurts a lot of people on the way. That's another story, I won't go there. But, so, you know, another thing I wrote up here, I was thinking about Dryden and what he read. He said, fortune at some time to all is kind. The lucky have whole days which still they choose. The unlucky have but hours, and these they lose. And that's how I look at astrology. There are opportunities that come in astrological language that come to us in terms of progressions and transits and things that says, wow, this is a great opportunity for you to move forward and be successful. And then we don't take advantage of it because we're not aware of it. And Shakespeare also said something, you know, it's to the same effect that, in fact, I just had that out today, this quote. But basically what I'm saying is that being aware of these tides, there's a tide, that's what Shakespeare said, there's a tide in the affairs of men, if taken at its crest, leads on to success and happiness. If missed, leaves you in the shallows for, you know, basically you'll never go anywhere. And so a lot of poets, a lot of writers have expressed these same ideas. And much of it's astrological. You know, they were very well aware of astrology. Shakespeare talked about it. The fault, dear Brutus, lies not in your stars, that your underlings. What's he talking about? You know, astrology. You know, it's yourself that's the reason you're an underling. But the point I'm getting at is that, you know, it's nice to blame the stars, though, you know. I can't help it. It's my stars. I got Saturn doing this, and I can't change anything, and all this fatalism. And I don't teach that kind of astrology. I believe we should be masters of our life, masters of our destiny, and we should be creating our life in a positive, momentum way. How about the guy, the family that won three? Did you see that? 3 lotteries in 1 month?
Oh, yeah.
No.
Yeah, 1 million first time, 50,000 the second time, and 658,000 the third time, all in a month. Can you imagine that? I mean, think about that. What's the odds against that? It's the odds of even winning the lottery 3 times. So, anyway, okay. So talk about luck, talk about astrology. I'm going to kind of go through a little thing. I want to show you something. Actually, I owe it to Michelle for sparking my insights into something. And so you can share that with him. Michelle, what happened?
Yeah, well, I
Hey,
was on.
stand up,
I
stand
was
up,
on-
stand up, stand up. Be
Oh,
on film, be
gosh.
on film. I got it.
I'm taking
Don't forget
my-
to say hello to YouTube. Go ahead.
I need better body language for this.
Oh, no, she's one of the best speakers, by the way. At,
No.
You are. You won first place last night in the
Oh, my
competition.
gosh.
Really?
Yeah, and what's it called?
Toastmasters.
Oh,
Toastmasters.
that's great.
She's a gifted speaker, so she
That's
should be up
okay.
front.
That's great.
Well, Ron wanted me to share with you that I was on Facebook, and one of my favorite astrologers, a really big influence on me, Rob Bresney, had put up a chart of astrological aspects in April. And there's a cardinal cross, correct me if I say
Right,
anything
mhm.
wrong, all kinds of interesting aspects going on. And so I thought of Ron, of course. So I posted it to his wall, and I said, Ron, any thoughts?
This is what she wrote
And
me.
then, oh, you got it there. Okay. So,
She said, what are your thoughts,
I
right?
get back from Toastmasters last night real late, and I see there's a text that you tried to call me. I'm like, I hope everything is okay, because this was a couple of days ago that I originally posted it. And then I hear from Ron, and he says, I was 2 hours before the earthquake, he predicted. And as you can see, should I read it?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Here's what Ron says.
Oh,
It says Saturn,
Ron's not
Jupiter.
Ron's not gonna let you read that. Okay.
He says, can't really prophecy about this grand cross, as this is not necessarily my strength as an astrologer. I would think that it will be indicative of earthly upheavals and physical calamities of some consequence, as the cardinal cross depicts physical pain and suffering on a more global scale. This could represent also the conflict that brings down leaders and structures that need to be replaced. Uranus on the cross also often presages earthquakes and sudden unexpected events. Let's hope that the rash of earthquakes in Southern California, aren't a harbinger of things to come.
And unfortunately, they were. You know, they were very much that. 2 hours later, the big quake hit off Chile. It was an 8.2 quake, which is one of the biggest
It's
quakes.
very strong, very.
Really,
Yeah.
you know, if you know how quakes are measured, they're logarithmic. You know, from 7 to 8 or 6 to 7. It's an amazing difference.
Right.
You know. So anyway, enough of that. But the point being, I thought it was interesting because Uranus is a harbinger of quakes. But here it is on a cross, and if you look, it's exactly. Let me show you the chart. It's exactly conjunct the Sun. Uranus 12 and 12. Can't get much better than that, can you? And then it's opposing Mars. It's a white orb, but it's the Sun, so it's not. And look at where Jupiter is 11. This is 12. Look at Pluto 13. They're an exact T-cross, perfect T-cross, which pulls this planet in as well, Mars. So the thing is that, you know, there's a tendency to look at these energies as events. When this planet gets exactly a 13 or 14, then big things are going to happen. But what have I taught you all for ever since you've been in this class? The new moon that precedes the event. Remember that? And the new moon happened just over here, just as it passed over it. It's at 10 degrees Taurus. This is the 12 of Aries. What is that? That's one sign. Okay, 30 degrees. The moon moves roughly 12 degrees, so that's about 3 days ago was the new moon.
Right.
The new moon was predicting this event. You
Oh.
see? Now do you see that?
Yeah.
And so what happens is astrologers will go look at this big cross that's formed, and they'll say, oh, look at Mars will be more perfectly, it'll be 13 degrees, and then we'll really have a grand cross. The promise was done 3 days ago. Okay? So when all these things lined up really well here, 12, 13, and 14, 11, 12, 13, or 11, 13, 12, whatever, these are all perfect within a degree of each other. That's what is the trigger, and it's in cardinality. What is cardinality? I've talked many times. Difference between cardinal crosses.
It takes
Beautiful.
action.
What is it?
Action.
Good, action. You're good, very good. And we don't think of action as, it's very physical stuff. It's if it's a cardinal cross in the human body and in the cross in your chart, that can be what? Physical problems, ailments of physical nature, because it's real physical. And so we got the fixed and we got the mutable crosses. The mutables are much more mental, a little more, they deal with different things. Fixed likes to grind in and stay with it and not move. Mutable wants to run away, so I marry a fixed cross and she says, no, let's hang in. And I say, well, I want to, I'm enough of this. That's mutable. Mutable wants to, I don't want to face up to this. I just want to get away. So very often mutables are more suicidal as well. It's an escape, isn't it? Let's get out of this, right? And when I was younger, I did it. I tried 3 times, almost did it, both, many times. So, I slashed my wrist when I was a young man. I took overdoses of pills twice, it nearly killed me. And survived both times, but the point being, obviously I survived up here, right? But I had to go through those things, I wanted to run away from life. It was too hard for me, I couldn't handle it. So where fixed signs would say, I'll just stubborn it out, I'll work through this. I'll lift more weight today, I'll get stronger and stronger and stronger, That's fixed, it's stubborn, So anyway, that's enough of this. Okay, yes, dear.
I couldn't find, I looked online, I wanted to find out where the new moons, the sign, the degrees, I couldn't find anything that would give me all that information to be able to put it into my chart.
I gave you a list of new moons.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying I want to look at some that were from the past or some, is
Oh,
there
yeah,
anything-
you need to look at an ephemeris.
I did, but I didn't, so,
When
We just look at the sun and moon are together.
yeah, when the moon and the sun are in the same degree in the same sign.
oh,
And you-
okay, that's how you,
They're
that's
conjunct,
how you work
perfectly
it.
conjunct.
And then
that's
you
the-
look at this, then you look at the sign that the moon is in on that chart. I have to look at
You
the.
can-
Yeah, when you go to any month, you want to look at a particular month in your
Right.
life, right? Go to
Okay,
the
that
year
makes
and the month.
sense. Okay.
Okay, once you go there, then you're going to go down, you'll see the sun in ephemeris, the sun's on the left side, the moon's on
Yes,
the right.
right.
You just go down and look at the moon until it hits the same sign as the sun is in, because the moon moves fast, obviously.
Right.
The sun's moving only a
Right.
degree a day, the moon's moving 12 degrees a day,
Right.
roughly. So when it's moving along, then you see it's, let's say the sun's in Aries, you come down, you see all of a sudden the moon's in Aries.
Right.
Well, it won't tell you the exact degree when it happens, but you're gonna know if the moon is at 1 degree Aries and the sun's at 29, you know it's got another day to go yet. Maybe 2 days to go to get to the end of that sign. You see what I'm getting at?
Right.
So you can just figure it out. Say, the next day it's at 13, the moon, and the sun's still at 29. The next day it's going to be at probably 25 degrees. So you know that's the day of the new moon. So you pick the sun's position
Right.
at 29. You know the moon is going to catch that point. So 29 degrees Aries would be the new moon for that month. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just have to look at it again, yeah,
And I'll help you with that if you ever need help with those, just ask me. So enough of this. I just wanted to see. Look where Saturn was rising in the east, exactly on the east at the time of this thing. And it's interesting because it's 22 and this is 10. And we use it. What's the orb for the Saturn and Moon? What's the orb for the Moon?
Is it 12?
12, good, very, very good. 12 degrees. So 12 degrees and 10 and 22 is exactly 12 degrees apart. So it's an orb of opposition. Saturn is opposing the moon as well. This is another dynamic stress coming down on this earth at the same time. So, okay, so this is the exact time of the earthquake. It happened at local time in Chile. Outside, I picked a town that was real close to Antofagasta or something. I don't know. There's another city that's a little closer maybe, but it's,
Iquique. This happened in Iquique.
yeah, but the difference in latitude and longitude is they're both coastal little towns.
Okay.
So I just picked that one, but I couldn't find the other one, by the way, in the ephemeris. In the atlas, it didn't show up, so I just used this one.
Okay.
But it won't change anything, okay? Okay, so enough of that, okay. So, Saturn, we're going to talk a little bit about Saturn, we're going to talk a little bit about Jupiter.
Sorry, can I go back one more time? Sorry, I just want to make sure I'm clear. So that it would, the aspects could be completely different between the northern and southern hemisphere? You're saying, would they be different?
Well, the latitude affects the planet's positions, yes. If you're on the equator, the house positions is gonna be pretty equal. Everything's pretty much the same. The further north you go, you get distortions of the houses. So the positions of the planets tend to sometimes bunch up together in these houses because of the latitude.
So if I go traveling somewhere, then how do you,
You chart, you can do a
Ephemeris
chart from
never-
anywhere in the world. It's gonna calculate all that for you. I used to have to do it myself. I had to calculate the house positions, I had to calculate the planet's position, I had to take into account all the time zone changes. I had to change the local mean time from Greenwich Mean Time. I used to do that. I mean, I used to do all the computations computers do now. You're so fortunate. All you do is put the information in, the chart will do it for you.
and usually the information I have to put in is usually where I was born, like the
Yeah.
actual, so I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about today. They usually don't, if I look at an ephemeris online, they don't ask where, I think usually it's Switzerland or something, I don't know what it is. Do you need to get the ephemeris for exactly where you're located? I'm just, maybe I'm.
It helps. And
Yeah.
then usually when
can
you do
get
a
that?
chart online, it asks you what the location is. Sometimes you have the
Oh, I
option of
didn't
putting
see
in the
that.
city. If you happen to know the coordinates, you can put in the
Yeah,
coordinates.
I never heard of that. Okay, so I only looked up the ephemeris on it. No, I haven't seen it, so I didn't, it makes sense, I just didn't know that.
If you want to email me, I know that I've done
Oh, that'd
stuff
be great.
online. I
Yeah,
don't
I'd
have the
love to
software
know.
either, so sometimes I do look stuff up like that. I
Okay,
can
cool.
send you the
Yeah, I
links.
only know one there, so that's.
Well, here's the thing, every place you're at, if you put the date and the time and the place, it's gonna do it for you. You don't have to worry about too much about that, whether they're gonna change position. All the planets gonna change. Obviously, let's say you're born at 6 a.m. right here, right? But let's say you're 12 time zones. Where's the sun gonna be at 6 a.m. in your chart? 6 o'clock, it's rising in the east. But on the other side of the earth, it's setting in the in the west, rather. So that you got a 360-degree change. Okay, 180 degrees, excuse me. You got a complete different chart. So where you're born is just as critical as what time you're born.
Oh, I know where I was born. Maybe I'm talking about I know you fill it in for when you're born, you do the chart, but I'm saying, I thought you were just looking at the aspects on.
The aspects would probably not change in 12 hours, pretty much, between planets.
Right.
But if you did that chart we just looked at, that was if you look at the chart we just looked at, the sun was setting over here, below the earth, it's gone below the setting point. Here's the horizon, it's down here, it's a 9-something almost 9 o'clock at night, so it's already down from 6 to 9, it's come down here. Now, if you were born at, let's say 9 a.m., if this chart was on 9 a.m., you could turn this whole chart around and put it on the other side, it would be 180 degrees different. If you put the same place and change this place, in other words, from here to here, to Florida, it's going to change the chart's positions of all those planets. But one thing will remain constant. This opposition, near opposition to the moon, and it's going to be the same. This conjunction is not going to change. The sun only moves a degree a day. Uranus moves less than that, very little
Right,
at all.
I get that.
So if it's there at 9 o'clock at night, it's going to be there at 9 in the morning. If it's going to be there in Chile, it's going to be there also in any other part of the world, because those planets are going to stay together. They're not moving. The only thing that might move in a day and location time would be the moon, 12 degrees a day. So if it's moving 12 degrees and you go to another time zone, 180 degrees around the Earth, then that moon's going to move a lot in relationship to that chart. A lot, maybe 6 degrees, okay? But the basic whole message is still in the chart, okay? Yes, Ed.
I just thought of something really profound. if I do say so myself.
I'm sure you will.
Listen,
Which
I
you
don't know,
did.
I just did.
I'm teasing you.
You know the phrase, a rose by any other name?
It's
By the way,
Yes.
you can put the camera on me. Yeah.
Yeah,
A rose by any other name would still be a rose, right?
yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm just thinking, gee, what a coincidence that it happens to be Saturn, the planet, which is, because all of these things are bodies which are influencing, physics-wise, scientifically,
Yeah,
with the pull on us, on living, on the living, and just the events, and
Right.
the people in the events. Okay. So, it's not a coincidence that Mars is called Mars, Saturn is called Saturn, and Venus, and all of these planets which represent these gods and goddesses which have that effect. So obviously people, what they did was, because of this, it's all based on astrology. All religion is based on astrology. That's why they said, well, since this planet is having this effect, and it's a challenging effect, we'll call it Saturn, not because, oh, what a coincidence, it's a good thing we called it Saturn, because this is how it affects it. No, they knew it first, then they labeled these planets.
good, good.
But then when you start looking at religion, gee, is it a coincidence that Satan acts a certain way? So then basically they're really, quote unquote, let's say there is no sentient being called Satan. It's really the idea of what the planets are influencing. So then
Very
therefore,
good.
every single religion is based on astrology. And of course, since the first religions were based on astrology, every other religion, of course, will then just be offshoots of that without even really knowing that,
Their source,
yeah.
yeah. That's
Now,
right.
was that a profound idea or what?
No, it's right.
I just
Yeah.
thought of it right now, it's just unbelievable, you know?
And you have to realize what you're saying is this, because astrology is an empirical science,
Exactly.
which is what you just said.
It's
In
not
other words, it's by
superstition.
observation. It's
Exactly.
not by, some calculations. They observe for
It's not out
centuries.
to get you, Saturn's out to get, it
Yeah.
just has gravity, just don't jump, it's gonna get you. No,
gonna get-
it's just a law,
Exactly.
at least in the earth.
And
it is.
these are archetypical messages that you're
Right.
getting, So the archetypes are very strong. I'm gonna go through some of those today. I would have liked to show you this, but I can't tonight. It doesn't work from here for some reason. I don't know why. It doesn't jump right out, but let's go forward. This is the part of the astrology that I need to give you because, I want to see you folks changing your life. I want to see your life transformed. I don't want to see you just out here learning some mechanical astrology that doesn't have any effect. It's like, what difference does it make in your life? That's, to me, always the question. I've been in a lot of lectures in my life. I've lectured all over all over the United States and other places, but I've always felt like that, what am I there for? What am I there? I'm there to try to transform and change people's lives. If I can accomplish that, then that's fine. If somebody rejects my message, fine. I gave a lecture here, the last lecture I gave outside to a major group, there was a guy in the audience and he was having a hard time with me. I knew it. He was looking down, he would look at me, and later people told me he hates religion, anything to do with religion, he just didn't want. And I knew it. He walked out before the end of the lecture too, but I can't be worried about that. I'm there for those that are there to hear me, and those that don't, that's fine, Them that have ears to hear, let them listen, Them that have eyes to see, let them see, but those that don't, that's fine with me. Let them go on in their darkness, forgive me, okay, but that's what I see. So anyway, Scripture says, this is the day that the Lord hath made, let us rejoice and be glad in it. I had a video I wanted to present before that. I couldn't get it to play just now. Maybe I can do it tonight sometime. Okay, let us rejoice and be glad in it. I told you the story about the guy at the table with his daughter and his wife, and they were sitting in I think it was like a Denny's or someplace, and my wife and I were there, and I'm watching them ignore their child, and they're having an argument back and forth, and they're very ugly people just sitting there, really filled with darkness. And this little girl's trying to be light, probably 3 or 4 years old, just trying to be in the light. And I'm watching all this, and I finally had enough of it, and I got up and I wrote on a napkin, I wrote this scripture. This is the day the Lord hath made, rejoice and be glad in it. And I ran over and I set it right in front of that man. And he read it, looked up, read it again, looked over at me, tears started coming out of his eyes.
Oh,
Yeah, and totally changed that table.
wow.
Totally changed it. He was so thankful to me.
Wow.
And he was a Christian, obviously, but I hit him home, really home. So it's a little bold, right? I mean, Elena's seen me do this many times. I remember a Latino guy. We were right over here in in that, what's that breakfast, egg place right here? That was one of those.
Steiner?
One of those, I don't know, anyway, it doesn't matter. We were in a restaurant, and there's this guy, and he's really a Latino guy that's really, excuse me, egotistical SOP. And his wife is sitting across from him, and I could tell she's been under a lot of abuse from this guy. And I got up, Elena will tell you this is exactly what I did. I got up, I went over and I sat right next to this guy. He was a big, tough looking, looked like a gangster. I sat next to him. I said, you know what, you're being a real asshole. I said, this woman stood by you through hell and damnation, and she's still here and she shouldn't be. I said, because you mistreat her so much. I said, why don't you appreciate who she is and what she's done for you, and realize who's standing next to you and stood by you through everything, through thick and thin. Man, she started crying. He got a little soft, you could tell it. Like I got through to him, but he didn't want, his ego was still there, you know. And I got up and I sat back down with my wife, you know, but I didn't care. I got the message over, I wanted to get over. The point being, sometimes I see so well, you know, I'm sad, I see, that's my sign, you know. And sometimes I see so well, I just gotta get out there and talk and say what I gotta say and get the message over, and whether it's in a group like this or whatever, you know, it's still important. So this is important. This is the day, okay? Okay. This is the sun's path on the journey. This is the belly of the whale in Jonah. It was, you know, remember the story? When in the belly of the whale, this is the belly of the whale. This was the whale. He put an eye here, he got a whale. And that's the sun path on the ecliptic. And every year, John the Baptist Day is the June 24th. It's right up here, the sun in Cancer. And that's called John the Baptist Day. Guess who saved that day for us and recognized it with the Catholics? They have all these on record, right, these days. So 6 months later, John the Baptist was born 6 months before Christ. Read the scriptures. If you go 6 months later, you got December 24th, midnight. The sun is down here. What did John say? He said, how did it go? I must descend, but he shall ascend. And he was talking about this. And then down here is the Capricorn, Saturn sign. The sun's in hell. He descended into hell, he stayed 3 days, and the sun does that every year. It descends into Capricorn on December 21st, and it stays 3 days in one place for 3 days in declination, south of the equator, 3 days and 3 nights before it rises again. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? It was just what Ed was saying. It's all in the heavens, right? So that them that run may read, right? So he's born here at this point. No, not a bone of his body is broken. Why? Because he's in Saturn's domain. But Saturn rules skeletal frame and teeth and bones, but not a bone of his body shall be broken. Meaning that Saturn or Satan had no power over him. That's what it's trying to say. They used to break the knees on the cross with a sledgehammer. They'd break their knees because once they did that, the person would collapse. They couldn't support themselves up there like this. Guess what happens when you break the knees? There's compression on the lungs. You can't breathe anymore, you die. So that's how they would kill those that they crucified after they figured they'd suffered enough. That was the final blow they would do. So not a bone of his body shall be broken. Angels in white. What happens this time of year? It's snow. Angels in white appear at the tomb, right? The grave, hell, 3 days. Born in a stable. Horses and goats. This is Sagittarius and Capricorn. He's born in the where? He's born in the stable with the goats, Capricorn, and with the horses, Sagittarius. All that's the sign where we're moving in. We're moving out of Sagittarius into Capricorn there. So what we're dealing with is an eternal story. And this is the cardinal cross, by the way. Notice this cross? That's the cross that I talked about with you. That you had the instinct, intuition, very intuitive lady, you know, to ask me a question at a timing. It's almost like she was part of the whole scenario. It took her to prompt me to look at that, because I don't generally do that kind of stuff. I almost apologized before I did it, didn't I? You know, this isn't my forte. I was basically saying, but then
Then it came out of you.
Yeah.
Because it's,
but you were the instrument to bring it out of me, because I would have probably not picked up I could have picked that up. I saw it earlier and I didn't do anything with it. Then I felt a little guilty because I didn't respond to you. So I got that thing out and put it out, and 2 hours later, bam, it hits. But anyway, this is the path of the sun. the Son of God, Son, whatever. So, let's
Hey,
go on.
Ron,
Yeah,
I wanted you to finish that before I was gonna say this. Now, isn't it interesting that you're gonna have Christ, Jesus, born, the contradiction of being born Capricorn, Saturn.
mm-hmm,
So I would ask you, I mean, I have an idea, but just a guess, but why would they choose Saturn to be born on that? My thing is, more I keep talking about, well, you know, say your thing, then I'm gonna say my thing.
well, no, I wouldn't, no, but my response to that is, this is a archetypical ancient story that isn't necessarily about some man, okay, you know, it wasn't about that.
But they're choosing the time of the complete opposite of what is being born.
Yeah,
It's the winter solstice. It's a time when the light returns.
to the earth
So I
again.
think it's.
Begins to come back.
You know, the pagan holidays celebrated the light returning on December 21st. So I think along with so many other things, the church appropriated those key times, including Easter, which, you know, was the.
But still,
the
even though that we're
equinox.
talking about 3 days after, we're talking about just the time is the Saturn time. So that
Yeah.
means that the Christ is being born during the extreme opposite of what he is.
Well,
Even
it's
though it's
born-
growing out of it. I mean, I
Yeah.
have an idea right now, but I want to hear you guys say it first before I say it.
Mhm.
My thing is this, is that I keep, and I've been saying this during all this course, not to be afraid of the negative because it's not evil. And when you say, oh my God, you're getting challenged, hold on a second, I'm thinking that whatever your weakness is can actually become your strongest point.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
if you work on it, and I think this is kind of like showing, look, you got the opposite of what this Christ is, completely opposite. From there is showing you the complete opposite and what the culmination of what you can do if you work on it. You can be the opposite, let's say,
Yeah,
of a Satan.
that's
You can become
Well,
a Christ.
it's not an opposite of Satan. You gotta recognize something. That when you talk about the place that he is, okay, when we talk about he descended to hell, stayed 3 days, we're talking about the spirit, okay, we're talking about the Son. We're not talking about a being, you know, human being, we're talking about the spirit. He descended into hell, he stayed 3 days and he rose again. Now, let me say this about that. We talk about, you know, you use the word like Saturn or Satan and as if there's some great power there. The message of all the Christian message is only one, and that is that there's no power in darkness. Darkness is the absence of anything. It's the absence of light. It's not the presence of anything. Evil is the absence of what? Of good. It's not the presence of anything. I know it sounds weird, you know, you say, well, Ron, I see evil in the world, but all things, ultimately the devil unwittingly is but the servant of God. It's put that way. All things work together for the highest good, no matter what they are. Even somebody that thinks they're doing something that's very bad and very whatever, he's still unwittingly but the servant of God. The point is that all these things that happen in life that seem to be other than dark, I mean other than light, it seem to be darkness, it seems to show a separation from God, okay, Maya, whatever, illusion, all that stuff. All the ancients, the Hindus, all knew that it was an illusion. The illusion is that you can be separated from good or God. The other thing is that we can only manifest the power of that Christ Spirit, if you would, when we love, because that's what God is. God is love. And love is manifest only in basically 2 ways, praise and thanksgiving. I don't care how you cut it. If I love someone, I'm praising and I'm giving thanks. If I hate them, I'm finding fault and I'm accusing them. That's how we live. That's how our lives are. Once we understand the 2 spirits, the spirit of accusation, finding fault, and constantly, when we're finding guilt out here, we're finding it in here. When I'm at a low spot in my life, she's going to be the victim in a sense. Because why? When we don't feel worthy, we're going to cast it out. We scapegoat. It's called scapegoating. Back to Capricorn again. So the whole point of this is that Charlene wrote me an email. She was denied. Charlene's a beautiful girl that Elena tutored in in English for a long time from France. And she spent a lot of time here, and I got to know her, so she just wrote me a long email about how she got refused in the college, so she can't get a visa to come back to the United States because they didn't accept her in this college she wanted to go to. And so my response isn't astrological, even though I've done her chart, I worked on her chart, I know her, was simply this: don't lose your faith in good. Because all things are working together for good for them that love God. All things are, everything. And the second thing is, don't think it's your will that's being impeded. Don't seek your will, seek the higher will. The other part of the Godhead that's saying the best thing for you is this, is not to be there. Now we can view life's events as obstacles, Saturn, obstacles, stumbling blocks, Saturn, all those things, you know. All that ego stuff that says, I want my way. There's only one way, my way. And what happens with that is we are constantly pitting ourselves against the higher will, which is maybe directing our lives. And what I've found in my life is that there's a direction. There's a divine plan. And sometimes it seems to be adverse to what I want, what I think's the best thing. So when I'm faced with these situations that seem to be other than what I feel is right or good or is comfortable for me or maybe more perfect for me, is to praise, give thanks, and trust the good, because that's all I'm asked to do. I'm not asked to understand why. I'm not asked to understand the greater picture of it, but I do trust in the infinite wisdom that says this is what's going to be best for you. Now that is a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people because the egos are very strong. You know, I want it my way. And I was sitting in Starbucks the other day, and a lady was sitting next to me, two seats over, and they were talking about Zeus because he was out there. And she starts on talking to me about Zeus. The next thing about astrology, why'd you name him the Zeus? And I said, I'm an astrologer. Next thing you know, well, you know, I'm brought up Catholic. I was taught astrology's not good, but my daughter now is a Mormon, and I'm opening my mind, and I'm having trouble with opening my mind to all these things. And I said, well, you should, you're a Sagittarius. She about fell out of her chair. How do you know I'm a Sagittarius? I said, I just know, I just knew, I don't know why I knew. But she, 1 out of 12 chance I was right, but I said, you're a Sagittarius. And she threw me an email, I got it on my emails here today. She says, I was just shocked by that, how you could know I'm a Sagittarius. But the point being, I see those things as opportunities to reach a person deeper. It opens them up, it makes them receptive to me, it makes them open up to the message I might have to give. And she said, and I gave her a CD, because I wanted her to, she's recently divorced and she's going through a lot of crises about this. I want this guy as the guy in my life, and I said, don't want anybody that's coveting. You know what I mean? I said coveting. It's like, if you want my ring, that's coveting. You want my ring? How about if you want one like it? That's not coveting. So the same with a man, you think he's the most perfect guy in the world? You may get your wish and you may regret it. The best thing to do is say, I'd like a man like that. That's whole, that's complete. That's not, I want that man. Because that can bring you something you wish you didn't get later. The only point I'm getting at is it's all about letting go of our own self-will and beginning to trust in a higher will and purpose for our life. Once we walk in that light and that consciousness, things change. So let's move on a little bit. I just put together something. Let me keep going a little bit. We did all this. This is the lecture I gave. All these words that are astrological. I don't know about that. We've done that before.